So there comes a time when you need to weigh what you want versus what you need. What I want is to be running my computer, running Linux, running all the free and open source stuff that I can. Probably Solus would definitely be my preferred operating system to run, and with AMD graphics, open source drivers, all that great stuff. What I need is things that work for me and work well, that are better for video production and things such as that. And so what that means is there's been kind of some major changes to my Ryzen build. So as I switch over to you, that's not the right background. And so here we are, running Ubuntu again. But that is not the only change. Along with now running Ubuntu again, I am also back on my Nvidia graphics card. And as you can see right here, I'm also using DaVinci Resolve again. So if we go based on some of my last couple videos, that's a pretty drastic change, and a lot of you are probably thinking, what the hell changed? Why is there's so much change? And I know change is scary, especially when you're changing from mostly free and open source stuff back to a good number of proprietary stuff, admittedly, which not necessarily proud of that fact, but switching back to these things has definitely helped with my video production workflow in a lot of key ways. So I'm going to take this one thing at a time, explain what happened and why I'm suddenly back to a lot of other things. Now, at the very least, it's not like I'm running Windows again, because that's never going to happen on my main system. I will guarantee that, unless it's like in a virtual machine or anything. But not bare metal. That will not happen on my main system here. Keyword being main system. We'll get more into that later. So, first things first. For a lot of you who follow my streams and whatnot, well, I say for a lot of you that do, honestly, it's not that many of you, but for those that do, you would know that my capture device had been giving me issues. It would tend to freeze up from time to time, and I don't know if that was maybe some bandwidth issue or something else going on with that. So far has not been giving me problems here on this Ubuntu installation, so I hope it wasn't something with Solus, but so far it's been so good. I'm currently using my capture device. It's a Magewell USB HDMI capture dongle thing. I'm using that for my camera now, and previously it was giving me issues with it would just freeze up on its own for whatever reason. So I had been wanting to get a new capture device for some time. I wanted to get an internal capture device because, you're not really going to easily saturate the bandwidth of a PCI Express lane with a capture device. So I did just that, and now I have a, so when I was shopping around for it, my first thought was, okay, my current Magewell card, other than the hiccups I've been having lately, it has worked very well for me. It was plug and play, Linux compatible, great stuff there. But when I was looking at a new internal capture device, I was considering an internal Magewell card, but that would have been $300. And, there is an argument to be made like, okay, it's $300, but you're paying for that Linux supporting that sort of thing, but that's still $300. So I was considering that still, because I had, mostly a good experience with my current Magewell USB capture dongle. But what I ended up looking into as well, and what I ultimately decided upon, was a Blackmagic Intensity Pro 4K. So they don't tend to have the greatest reviews, but most of the issues that I had seen seem to be more related to people using them on Windows. Whereas with things that I had seen that actually mentioned Linux, it's like, it worked perfectly with Linux! Yay! And I don't remember what the name of the channel is, but they're there's this one person who I know it was on Ubuntu 16.04. They also had an Intensity Pro 4K, and it seemed like it worked perfectly fine for them, aside from a couple little tiny issues. But like, so I did end up going for a Blackmagic Intensity Pro 4K, and it was all fine there to start with. And with their driver package, it's called like Desktop Video or something. They do have driver packages available for .deb, RPM, and other for like manual installation, like say if you were running Arch Linux or something. The problem is it requires DKMS, which Solus does not have in its repositories, because the Solus team likes to update the drivers and whatnot themselves to make sure everything works, which I can appreciate. I can definitely appreciate that. I understand why they do it that way. But the Blackmagic driver does need DKMS. At least I'm not super knowledgeable with Linux. I've been using it for about 2 years now, but that's just 2 years. I'm by no means an expert, so if I knew what I was doing, maybe I could have found a way to make it work, but the fact of the matter is I could not make it work on Solus, which was very sad, but I know I wanted to use this card. So that led to me deciding, okay, I need to like focus on my needs rather than just what I want. And I previously had a good experience with Ubuntu 17.10, so I'm not necessarily sad about switching back to it. In that case, I am sad about switching from Solus though, but once I did, everything, like, it just worked. It just worked, and that was fantastic. So, that explains why I'm on Ubuntu. And the Intensity Pro 4K, it does work great, by the way. If you are on Linux and you want an internal capture device, especially if you're using Ubuntu 17.10, as this is what I've tested on, yeah, the Intensity Pro 4K works great. It works fantastic. There is a little fan that does spin up quite often, and it's subtle. It kind of sounds like a weed whacker or something going on off in the distance. So it's not like horribly annoying if you're not listening for it, and I don't think it'll pick up on my mic either. You guys shouldn't be able to hear that, but it is kind of noticeable. But it's really not too bad. So yeah, that's one little tiny annoyance, but I mean it's perfectly manageable. So yeah, that works great here on Ubuntu 17.10, which is awesome. So I have that up and running, and I got my Mageville here for my camera feed, which is fantastic. Eventually, I do also want to get a camcorder to use for like webcam replacement, because this thing, the quality is of course good. You know, it's a DSLR, but not really meant for longer term video stuff. So I am still going to eventually get a proper camcorder so I can use that for live stream stuff instead, as my webcam is currently sitting over in a drawer because, you know, better quality and stuff. Anyway, that, however, does not explain why I needed to go back to an Nvidia card. So, I didn't buy the Blackmagic Intensity Pro for this reason, but it was something I wanted to try out. And that is, with DaVinci Resolve, as I've mentioned several times in my previous videos on Resolve, is at this time, you do not get audio out through system sound, which sucks, because you need some sort of Blackmagic hardware to get audio output. Now, officially, they mention their Blackmagic Decklink cards, but I was curious, so I was like, I wonder if the Intensity Pro 4K's output will work with it, and it does. So, it's not the main reason that I got the card. It was just something like, maybe I could make that work. I didn't actually think it would, but it does work, so I can properly use DaVinci Resolve now, which is pretty great, because Resolve still is a great piece of software. It does have a lot of little annoyances. Okay, I shouldn't say a lot, but like a few annoyances that might deter some people, not like aside from the system sound thing. That's a deal breaker for a lot of people. But it does work, so I can properly use Resolve now, which is fantastic. The most recent video I put up before this, Verdict, that was edited in Resolve. I did have some little issues with that. I'm going to go into that another time. But, you know, for the most part, I'm honestly, It's proprietary software, yes, but I still think it's the best video editor on Linux at this time. So hopefully the system sound thing does get resolved at some point, because that would open the door for a lot of other people looking to get into video production on Linux. So, yeah. So the reason I needed to use my Nvidia card for that was because I was fairly certain I wanted to run Ubuntu 17.10. I did consider 16.04, but I wanted to do 17.10 because I've said it before in my Solus not review, but the why I like Solus is I like new stuff. It's a dumb reason, but I do like newer, more up-to-date stuff. So I wanted to do 17.10, and that did end up working out because Resolve needs hardware acceleration, be it through CUDA or OpenCL. With AMD's OpenCL thing, it's the Radeon Open Compute. It's available, it is open source, it's just not fully upstream compatible yet. So I theoretically could get that working, but it's meh. So otherwise, for the easiest way of using OpenCL on AMD cards at this time, it'd be easier to do like Ubuntu 16.04 or Red Hat or CentOS or something and use the Pro drivers. I didn't really want to do that, so I just went with Nvidia. So we have CUDA, and therefore I can use Resolve just fine. A nice benefit of that as well is hardware acceleration for hardware encoding, like NVENC, which works out of the box in OBS on Ubuntu 17.10. I don't think it does in Solus. I could be wrong, but I don't think it does in Solus. So that is why I'm on Nvidia again. The intention was, okay, to use Resolve on Ubuntu 17.10, also had the fantastic added benefit of having NVENC available on OBS. So basically, it's that combination of those three things, the drivers for the Intensity Pro, using DaVinci Resolve, and the fact that I now never want to not go back to hardware encoding. That is why I'm on Ubuntu again. That is why I'm using an Nvidia card again. Why I'm using Resolve again? Yes, those three things. So that's why that happened. So yes, I did go from mostly open source stuff back to a lot of proprietary things. I know a lot of you freedom-loving dudes out there are not going to like that very much. But like I said earlier, you gotta weigh what you want versus what you need. And this setup has made things quite a bit smoother for me. So while I would love to be on all the free and open source stuff, it's just, right now it does still work a little bit better for me to have some of those proprietary options. Now, speaking of hardware encoding, AMD technically does have it's their VCE video coding engine thing. Doesn't properly work on Linux right now, but from what I've been reading, sometime hopefully soon-ish it might. So that would be pretty cool if I could go back to that. That would still go back to the issue of not being able to use Resolve because of the lack of upstreamed OpenCL support. But if those things do get resolved anytime soon, I will absolutely go back to AMD. So the way I see it right now is the Nvidia solution is kind of it's gonna be temporary. I do see it as temporary because once more of those driver components and other things that I kind of need at this point are better supported on the AMD side, I will absolutely go back to AMD and the open source drivers and stuff. But as far as Resolve, okay, speaking of that, another awesome thing that I found out is it's actually really easy to use NVENC and Kdenlive as well. So one of the bigger issues I had with Kdenlive, I can actually get around it now because I can just render using NVENC instead of software rendering through CPU, which speeds up render times a lot. Resolve is still faster, but you can actually you can make it so much faster with Kdenlive because you can use NVENC in it. Which I want to mention, it was someone in the YouTube comments on, I don't remember which video it was, but his name was Francois Simons, I think. and he mentioned getting NVINC to work in Kdenlive, which I had never even thought of before. So I looked into it, and he said it took him weeks, but it took me like a few minutes actually, because I just had to make a custom render profile in Kdenlive. Let me actually bring that up real quick, because it is pretty cool. So let's see, Kdenlive. I have that as an app image. Hold on. I wonder if that's the reason, because it's like another thing with Kdenlive. I'm using the app image version right now, which they also kind of recommend for Ubuntu at this time. But let me just open this up real quick. Shut up about DVD author. I should probably just get that so it stops bugging me about that. Anyway, we open Kdenlive here. So, with Kdenlive, all you have to do is just make a custom render profile. So as you can see here, I have HEVC NVINC. And if we go to more options, you have to like set the right options for it. But yeah, it actually works super well. So that's great. That is great. I could technically go with a lower bit rate than this, but it works. Pretty damn good quality too. So that's awesome. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling for this one. So that is the current state of my Ryzen build. I am going to have some more videos coming up dealing with more specifics with some of the switches I've done here. Like, there's definitely going to be another Resolve video, because I mentioned some issues earlier. I'm going to go into that, which the issues are workaroundable, but it is something to probably note. I don't know if it's just something weird with my system or if it would affect everybody or what, but we'll get to that at some point. Anyway, I guess one more thing real quick as to why hardware encoding is so nice with OBS. So if I try to do through software encoding, like with just X264 on the CPU, that really drives out the CPU usage and can certainly make other things perform worse. But like hardware encoding, like you can find a lot of things on it, but like for one thing, has like pretty much no CPU usage, and also it doesn't even tax the graphics card all that much. So especially for recording games and stuff, that's gonna make things so much nicer, because I won't have nearly as much of a performance hit. Things will just run like fantastically, and it's gonna be so good. And I am so excited, because this is actually the first I've used hardware encoding. Never looked into it when I was running Windows for some reason. I don't know why I didn't. But now that I have it, I don't want to be without it. So probably going to be staying in the Nvidia camp for a bit longer than I wanted to. Okay, right. The other thing I was going to mention, another kind of upcoming topic. I mentioned I'm not running Solus on my main machine here yet. I also did mention that on my main system, emphasis on main system, Windows will not touch it. Windows will not touch this hardware. Unless I were to do a VM with PCI Express pass-through for whatever reason. That's still an option in the future, but don't worry about that. So, I'm working on setting up a secondary PC strictly for gaming, and that will include Windows games, because I kind of relapsed. And there was a couple Windows games I really missed playing, so I kind of relapsed a bit. I took my old HP computer and set that back up, and so that's sitting down there, and has Windows on it. It is also, the plan is also to dual boot it with the original plan was to dual boot it with a Linux distro, which I was going to do Solus. I was definitely planning to do Solus, because if you ask me, Solus is like the distro to go to for gaming, largely because of Linux Steam integration, because that thing is fantastic. But with hardware encoding through OBS, like that's kind of less of an issue, honestly. But still something I might do just to ensure best performance, because that would still help with streaming. Because with streaming, you have to do lower bit rates, and software encoding works better at lower bit rates. So, still... Whoops. You saw nothing. Still trying to fully figure out what I want to do, but it is, at the very least, going to be a secondary Windows gaming box. So right now, it's just my old HP system. Eventually, I'm going to replace that with a proper, like... I'm going to call it a Steam machine. It's not really going to be only for Steam, but I'm going to call it a Steam machine because that's just easier to refer to it like that. So eventually going to do that for like a secondary gaming rig, and that should be pretty cool. So more on that another time. I think that's enough rambling for this one. So if you guys have any questions, concerns, probably a lot of concerns, feel free to discuss in the comments below. I look forward to that. Till next time, this has been Axel. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you dudes in the next one. Upcoming stuff that I currently have planned. I'm going to do a Why I Like Ubuntu. I'm going to do another DaVinci Resolve video for like an updated perspective on that now that I can use it properly with audio out and whatnot. And also some other things related to that in the Intensity Pro. I might also do a little follow-up on Kdenlive, like maybe another comparison between that and Resolve now that I know I can do NVENC for rendering from Kdenlive, because that is seriously such a nice time saver. Definitely gonna have to do some more tests with that, with like actually adding effects and whatnot. And also another kind of issue that's cropped up, I don't know if it's because I'm using the app image version or the Nvidia thing, but I'm gonna go into that in a separate video as well. And I think that's all I got down the pipe right now. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you dudes in the next one.